ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Talking That Talk official podcast. I am your host, Juice, aka No Ordinary Brother.
All right, what's good, everybody? I go by the name of King Exodus. Welcome back to your favorite show. We got a lot of current events for y'all tonight. Man, it's going to be heavy. It's going to be one of them ones. And then we got a great topic as well to tap into. I mean, we're really going to do our job tonight. You know what I mean? So, first topic we got on the table, a little quick talk. We have what just transpired in college basketball for the women. You got LSU versus Iowa. We have Angel Reese, who did the little gesture that you can't see me, to Caitlin Clark from Iowa. And it's really interesting because Miss Caitlin Clark had did the same gesture in just a previous game within the same tournament. You know what I mean? And it was okay. It was funny. It was entertaining. You know what I mean? She was in her bag. But when we have Miss Reese that practiced the same exact gesture, and she did that Steph Curry, pointed at that ring finger, you know what I mean? Now, all of a sudden, it was inappropriate. It was disrespectful to the sport. It's a lack of class. It's all of these things. You know what I'm saying? It's okay when they do it, but when I do it, they don't want that finesse 2 times. But this is exactly what took place and transpired. We have a double standard that exists not just in sports, but in real life. You have, quote unquote, the white society that practice certain gestures and habits. It's okay, but when black people practice these same habits and gestures, it becomes a problem. So, what you got on a quick topic, man?
Oh, honestly, as crazy as it sounds, they always say, like, whatever we do, we have to always do it in a more respectful manner. If they showboat, we shouldn't showboat as well. But engage into that situation, I honestly see nothing wrong with it. If you do the same thing and I do it, I guess because I'm black, I should show some more class or some more leeway, or, you know what I'm saying, I should fall back. But like I said, time and time again, we keep learning that whatever we do and what they do will never be measured up to the same thing. Whether it's the same crime, the same education, the same anything, as long as we have the opposing colors or, opposing colors of skin or ethnicity or culture or background, doesn't matter.
Okay. And it was interesting because you even had black people that was kind of like siding with, you know, she was a little out of line and all that. And I'm like, what? This is, ain't nobody get touched. It wasn't nothing negative, no violence. And I like one of the statements that she did afterwards. And she was like, look, y'all say I don't fit this narrative. I'm too hood. I'm too this. I'm too that. But I show up. I'm a professional. I exceed at what I do. And I represent, you know what I'm saying, girls across the country that look like me and come from where I come from. And that was very powerful. Mm-hmm. And then you have y'all's president, Joe Biden, who extended an invitation for Iowa to come to the White House as well, even though they lost. They weren't the winning team. So Joe Biden. Joe Biden. This is the first time that you have the losing team that comes to the White House as well. You got to remember, just not too long ago, people didn't go to the White House because Trump was there. You know what I mean? So now you have a president that y'all like, that you say is for y'all, black people, who is showing it's not for y'all. So then you have the winning team that has to reject the offer because they're allowing the losing team, which is more of a Caucasian team. I mean, we just got to keep it real, to come as well. So, I mean, I don't know if you want to touch on that part. If not, we can move on.
No, I definitely don't want to touch up on that. It's just plain and simple. Like I said, there's winners and losers, not a participation award.
Yes, indeed. We learned that in elementary school, guys. it's amazing.
You'll get a
all right, so, right. All right, so big quick topic. We have the United States dollar being ditched like it's nothing. You know what I mean? So we have China, Russia, India, Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, Japan, Brazil, South Africa. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody. UAE. All of these nations ditching the U.S. dollar. And this is pretty much like America has been a bully for so long to other countries. Now it's like, if you look at it within a week or 2 week span, all of these nations was like, you know what? We're tired of this shit. This is the time now to strike. You know what I'm saying? So you're witnessing America get its water cut off. And it's not saying that America will fall immediately because of this, but this is definitely within like the foresight. If this US dollar is not the #1 currency that's traded within like world over, it's going to have an impact. And our dollar has already lost value just based on what we do to it. You have, once again, your president sending $76 billion, I believe, to Ukraine. We've been reached our debt ceiling. Like we already reached that. Like that's done. So we're probably not going to pay that money back ever. So you have the dollar continue to lose value, and now you have countries coming together saying we're going to trade in the Chinese dollar, and we're going to create our new currency. So you have all these different types of things going on. You have China and the Saudi Arabia coming together to create their own $12 billion oil refinery. So if you look at even oil alone, America probably produced 15% of the world's oil. I think the Saudis produce maybe like 13%. So more of the power is shifting towards China and leaving the U.S. And if you study companies like Apple, most of the big tech companies that's American made, we still get the product sourced from China or India.
Correct.
And both of these nations have ditched the dollar. So that means this is going to be a big domino effect. And I don't think people really understand this whole thing, how it's taking place. But it's interesting because you have real life situations going on that will affect our monetary system. And we're sitting back watching TV, worrying about what's going to happen to Donald Trump. So this is just something we got to talk about. What you got with this whole thing? The whole everybody teaming up against America right now.
Oh man, I was just telling a lot of people. It's funny when I had those conversations. More so, you have people that don't even want to talk about it. It's like, well, as long as my dollars stay the same, I'm cool. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, you understand? Like everybody's saying, like, listen, fuck this shit. We going over there. It's gonna deplete the value within that dollar. I was like, it was the main currency exchange market. Once that's gone, it's getting devalued more and more by the day. Like I said, like you said, every country we get our resources from, and we also outsource to, they're saying they don't want to do business no more. So I'm just kind of picturing what's going to happen on an outsource basis as well as a resource basis. Like, what other options are you going to have now? I don't think y'all understand how powerful the majority of the resources come outside of the United States. And once they leave and they say, look, your money's no good here, it's going to be a problem, right? That's just like the person who always has money, right? He can buy his way into anything. But it's always those one people that be like, look, your money's no good here. That's literally the U.S. dollar. Like, no matter how much money you can throw, it's going to be no good here. So basically, imagine going to one of these countries and the dollar is completely bullshit. You're like, listen, you might as well throw it in that longer fire. Keep it warm, baby. I'm telling y'all, like, that's why I keep saying, listen, you want to pay attention to the economy shifts as well as what you need to do to prepare yourself employment-wise, entrepreneur-wise. What's going to be the newest thing once this currency starts taking place? Only thing that's going through our mind, I'll be a little conspiracy theory. So the only thing on my mind is that if the U.S. ain't gonna do what they was doing to everybody else back when they was trying to get rid of those central banks, hey, look, that's game over right there. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yes, indeed, yes, indeed. And all you conspiracy theorists, you thought it was going to be one world currency and everybody was going to fall in this world war.
I didn't want to too much.
It ain't looking like that. You're seeing currency wars happen right in front of you. Yeah, definitely. I didn't want to miss out any countries. Brazil, Japan was once an ally, and they say, yo, we ditching a dollar as well. Oh, yeah. And China is also investing in Japan. And so we're done with that, man. But yeah, so y'all definitely stay tuned to this whole, let's study how this affects the stock market. Let's study how this affects everything that surrounds our everyday life. Interest hikes. Like, we got a lot of things going on right now with this whole economic breakdown. So very interesting ride. Let's see where we at in like 10, 15 years from now. I think we might want to look at the countries we might want to move to. You know what I mean?
Well,
Start
the
planning an escape.
motherland, I'll be back in. The motherland is
I have to go back. You have to go back to Zamunda, Wakanda. I'm coming. All right. All right. So tonight's topic, man. I'll let you introduce the topic for tonight, man.
All
What we
right,
doing?
y'all. Tonight's topic is saving the black image. Can we reconstruct the black image? Can we empower the black image? The reason why I wanted to talk about this subject, because I was like, listen, it seems like things are going more on a downgrade than an upgrade. Of course, we have a very minority of us is very successful that actually gets pushed out into the media that are well dressed, well kept, and stuff like that. You always see the minority of it, but the majority that always gets blasted is our image, whether we're acting out in public, the way we're dressing, the way we're talking, the way we're speaking, or anything of that nature. A couple things happen, right? One thing I'd say I was looking at, it went viral. It was a situation where it was at a Chicago Bulls game. They bought out a suite. And in that suite of the middle of the fucking game, you know, my fault, I meant to get professional on this, my apologies. There's a stripper. And I'm like, why would you go to a national basketball game and have a stripper right there in the suite? Like, I don't think I understand how sports suites work out. Regardless if it's a suite, you can look to the left or right of you, there's a stripper dancing. And I remember just reading some of the comments like, bro, this is why black people can't elevate. We'll still do the most nigga shit, even in the best situations that money can buy. Like I said, having your own suite is one of the best things. I was also talking about some of the new things that was taking place. You got Black China. You know what I'm saying? She's rebranding, re-imaging. She did all the plastic surgery. She went and got baptized, removed the demonic tattoos. I was like, okay, she rebranded. She about to relaunch. You know, that sounds good. And she's also telling people to stay away from OnlyFans. But, you know, you got people that be like, well, how's it that you run up the bag and then you want to quit, but you telling us not to do it? Like I said, it's interesting when it comes to this image. Like, can we ever get back to an elevated place, right? They always talk about the 1960s, you know, people like, oh, we old, or everybody was walking around in suits. You know, people don't walk around in suits no more. And I remember I was telling X, like, listen, the only people I know that wear suits as a whole as black individuals, you know why? You know why? Nation of Islam, like I said, the brothers always in suits and people feel like that's tacky. But I was like, I never felt like that was tacky. I just felt like at moments of time in me growing up, I was just like, yo, that's not for me as of right now. Look at me now. I'm wearing suits and shit now. But I definitely want to put this on the table. Is there any way that we can save the black image or reconstruct it in a positive manner, or is all lost because the things that get publicized are usually us in a derogatory manner?
Woo. All right, man. Nice intro. I like that. I like that. I guess I'll just tap in on what you just talked about. Yo, we see plenty of situations where you have black people with money, whether they're rappers, successful entrepreneurs, and we just look at some of the things that they do. They can go to, I remember one time I seen, what's the boy name? Moneybag Yo and a bunch of people at a Memphis game, and it was courtside, but they was like putting money on the court floor, taking pictures.
Shooting dice on the court floor.
And I'm like, yo, this is the problem. Like, a lot of us that come from disenfranchised communities where we have a lack of resources and we result to quote unquote negative mentalities and crime and all these different type of hood mentalities, we can get out of that, make it, like really beat the odds. It's like a 90% chance to probably 95% chance you'll end up dead or in prison. We beat those odds. Then we get to that next level, and then that's where the power is at. But then we give the power right back to the same community, to the same energy, and to the same image, because we can never leave it. We can't disassociate with it. You know what I'm saying? We even have people like as great as like Tupac was, right? Who came from poverty, transitioned, but still had like the Black Panther background, but couldn't really connect to the Black Panther background because he had to portray this one particular image to market and sell. So it's like, when do we rewrite that narrative? And a lot of people don't think it's as serious, but even if you look at what Ciara did, right? you have women that black women that associate themselves with women's rights and struggles, right? Women that get this type of negative impact outlook. They don't get this, they don't get that. So when you do have that successful husband that can provide, facilitate, lead, do all these things financially, and you don't got to do all these things, when do you give up the independent image? When do you give up the I got to be naked image? Like, when does it stop? So a lot of times I feel as though black people really can't recreate our image because we don't even know when we made it. Because even when we transition, we still got to show you where we come from. And we never let that go. You know what I'm saying? So I seen something on social media today where like, what was it? A little baby, he was in like a foreign car, but he had to show you that he was eating Popeyes in the backseat. I'm like, yo, like, eventually we have to make success the new standard. Make being a husband, a wife, make that the new standard. Like, we have to disassociate ourselves with our background a lot of times. But we have this false sense of loyalty to where we come from. Like, we're showing loyalty to neighborhoods and street corners that a lot of us will never own the real estate in. Let's be honest. We're dying for streets and blocks for people that were racist. And this is time to like one of my next points is that black people spend the wrong energy into overcoming the wrong things. Like, we look at Donald Trump going to jail and we like, yo, that's so dumb. Black people is popping. We we finally got him. What the fuck does that do for black America? Like, does that change anything for any black person in America? Right? Divide and conquer. You think because you're a Democrat and this Republican devil that embodied racism and totality from slavery to now, and one person goes to jail possibly, and you're happy about that, like that's a personal accomplishment. We have problems. So I would just simply say we have to learn that we can't bitch and complain about people degrading our image when we participate within the same activities ourselves.
I was just about to motherfucker say that.
So it really hurts. It really hurts when we see the people, the smaller percentage of us that make it out the hood, get off the 9 to 5 clock, can actually do the things that we dream of, and then they still got to show you that they niggas too. So that's what I got.
All right. Let me get back to cooking real quick. Let me stir the pot. Gotta bring up the great Kevin Samuels. Y'all know that's my motherfucking brother. Shout out to the Godfather, aka the Gatekeeper.
Do Samuel.
But anyways, man, the man always said something that always stood out to me. He was like, for us to get our image back, we need to open up our own media, black male media, for one of the things. And the way he always talked about the construct of social image would always be able to take back the power and give power within ourselves. Show fathers that are being productive, black men that's being productive. You know what I'm saying? From the white collar to the blue collar, people all coming together to do things. He says one of the main ways you're going to have to take back your image, even in the media, is starting to deny roles that infiltrate black ghetto-ness, right? What we talk about, Denzel Washington won the Oscar for what? Being a cookie cutter. You know what I'm saying? It's stuff like that that starts participating that we got to be able to pay attention to, that if we keep acting in these roles, it's what empowers the image more, right? You got to remember sometimes the biggest betrayal of how they already think about us is movies, series, and the news. News media is fucking horrible. You know what I'm saying? I still remember when I was a kid and I was playing in one of the store owner shops. I'm just grabbing one of the little toy guns and playing around. The store owner walked around the corner. He didn't say nothing. But we were being followed the whole time. But because I don't know if the man's used to his store getting robbed or anything like that. But I also say some things have registered in people's minds, right? And I remember like sometimes like there was conversations I might have among other people, and white people will kind of sometimes whisper black, like, hey, how does it feel like being in a situation as a black guy, You know what I'm saying? It's like even in movies, the way they wanted to side talk with black people, they thought that's actually the proper way to do it in real life. So it's things we got to be able to start putting out there within the internet, like I said, internet, social media, that is not accepted. I say one of the biggest downfalls is also going to be blog websites, right? Shade Room, well, they got the Shade Room, the Spirit World. You always going to see some controversy, nigga shit, ghetto shit all the time on that. You know, it helps when things go viral. But what if the things that were going viral, we actually put a stop to? Meaning, yeah, it happened there, but we ain't gonna share that shit nowhere. That means it only people that know about it will only be in that area. That's the shit we gotta get used to. Like, it don't matter what happened in New York, what happened in Chicago. If it's something bad, let's not publicize it. We gotta get to that point. Just like when, quote unquote, when you have other ethnicities act out, you don't see it publicized unless they're a celebrity. Otherwise, they keep things under wraps. They only go for the main juicy things, and that's what we gotta get to. If we know that the crime or event or something taking place is gonna go viral, we need to be able to nip that in the bud and be like, don't share that shit. That's my opinion.
Correct. We allow negativity to be our biggest source of entertainment by majority. I'm not saying every black person, but like you just said, rewriting that narrative and recreating that image means that if it's negative, we're not fucking with it. We're gonna boycott the negative. Like, it's interesting. Like, I always go political just to make it a good reference. Like, we boycott what propaganda tells us to boycott. We don't come together as a collective and say we're gonna boycott this because I personally feel like this is negative to us. We let the news tell us what we should not fuck with. When you see Black Lives Matter on TV and all that, like, campaigns that was going on and vote or die, that was like the whole mentality for years. It kind of felt like we was really like living through some historical times, right? And as soon as the propaganda died down, the black energy died down. People ain't saying black no more, right? People not debating over anything political no more because we're comfortable. So comfort is a problem, and it results back to what entertains you. A lot of people, what I would really say, like, what you allow to entertain you kind of becomes like close to what you consider as God or not, because it has that much impact and power. If positive things and learning new information and being a better person is what entertains you, it's going to make a whole shift, even within what's on the television, what Hollywood puts out. So even you brought up movie roles. Denzel probably could have won an Oscar for Malcolm X, right? But by the egregor or the system, right, that comes from Hollywood, that would never happen. But Training Day, we'll give it to him. So what do? We support the movie more so like Training Day versus Malcolm X. So we have to grow as adults to where important shit doesn't seem boring. And we complain about our children, but they adapt to that same type of mentality. If it's important and it's like gonna advance my mental, it's boring. I don't want to do it. Like, let me do something that's fun. We have to recreate the narrative for black people as what we consider as fun or not. So yeah, tapping into movie roles, and it's very interesting that even within the black male space, we can look at men taking roles in movies that effeminizes and emasculates them, my bad, and takes away their masculinity. But a very key ingredient that we have to look at within this conversation is like, let's look at something simple as like how we eat. This is recreating the black image as well. Because if we die from health disease and illnesses, we're not going to live long enough to recreate the narrative or rewrite the image, because we're going to die to diabetes, high blood pressure, all these different type of illnesses. So what we have to do as black individuals is go back to the drawing board. If that's the number one killer of black people, then I mean what we got to do in the kitchen got to be different from everybody else. So I understand that within America, you got the pressure of eating. You go to the corner store to get gas, they sell you some cookies. You go somewhere else, like, you know what I'm saying? And then you have the mental trickery of red and yellow combined together, which increases hunger. So when you see the color red and yellow, you get hungry. So many different ways that you're marketed to eat and access to where you're destroying your body. You know what I'm saying? You can eat so much meat that you can build up a mucoid plaque within your colon, your intestines. You have these different type of things that's happening. Even on a food basis, you have foods that's produce more estrogen, and you have foods that produce more testosterone within the human body. So if we're talking about destroying masculinity within the Black community, we gotta look at what transpires in the kitchen. Even if we look at like a lot of what we call soul food, a lot of that food is high in estrogen, so it becomes dangerous to women because they can be exposed to cancers within their body, and then they can destroy the testosterone within the male's body. So how we eat, we need more selenium within our diet, more alkaline-based foods within our diet, more sunlight exposure. Even just exposure to sunlight can allow our bodies to create different vitamins just with sun exposure.
Correct.
So we have to look at how can we create our image within a better prospect just based on what we do in the kitchen and how we live our day-to-day lives. So this whole food pyramid bullshit, we have to dish that as well. So that's just something that comes up. And then when Black people do try to eat better, whether they go vegan, vegetarian, whether they only deal with seafood, whether they cut out certain things, you give up pork, you give up red meat, you will have your family, right? The people that you come from disrespect you the most and put that pressure on you the most to go back to the old habits that's destroying us. You know what I'm saying? So before the age of 18, I went to a lot of funerals, and all of those funerals pretty much was based on what happened in the kitchen. So I seen more people die at the table and in the kitchen than in the streets. So that's something that we have to do to recreate the Black image. It's going to take a lot of discipline, and we have to disassociate from peer pressure to even eat bad. So I just had to put that in the mix.
All right. We're gonna give y'all some great education. Another thing we're gonna need to do when it comes to reconstructing the image is start actually praising people in positions, right? No matter what your job is, back then it was always appreciated. What did you do? Mailman, you're the clerk, you're a teacher. You have a lot of stuff of that nature that actually gets looked down upon as we got older. Our generation started to change. Now, hypergamy is always still there. People still wanted the top 10%, whatever you want to fucking call it. But at the same time, within communities, everybody respected each other's household. It was a big thing. Like just to see a working man or a working woman, it was greatly appreciated. You know what I'm saying? Nowadays, you have people who might be, like I said, it could be smaller things from a teacher to a delivery driver to people who do fundings and stuff of that nature be looked up down because it's not cool. You know what I'm saying? Yo, you ain't, you know what I'm saying? You're not slapping ass on somebody for plastic surgery. You're not rapping. You're not playing sports. You're not entertainment. Like, listen, everybody's position is what unified the culture. You know what I'm saying? If you have the plumber on the same street, you had the carpenter, you had all. If you had all skilled labor on one street, they took care of each other on that same street. Cause you be like, listen, my pipes got busted. The plumber right fucking down the street. You ain't got to call nobody. You know what I'm saying? It was those type of trades that kept a lot of things unified. And one man told me something I'll never forget that really made me look at life kind of different. He said, listen, everybody's not going to get to the level that they want to be. So what some people did was pick trades and sacrifice their life in order to master it, but bring it back to the community, which helped other individuals at the same time. So when you have young Black kids that are growing up and they need to learn how to change oil, they just went to the auto mechanic guy that stayed down the street. They needed to learn something. Like I was like, damn. I was like, but nowadays everything's so spread out. It's like the trades are not as valuable as they once was. I don't think people understand like how powerful trades are. Like, listen, myself this year, I told everybody I believe in getting one physical trade. I believe in getting one digital trade. That'll keep you afloat with anything that you're doing. So I want to keep in mind on the physical part and aspect. If you're able to fix anything, you'll forever be employed. You know what I'm saying? People still getting freaked out by AI. I said, listen, that shit still got some time. But right now, it's like I said, the ability to teach as a man, the ability to provide is one of the biggest things. The appreciation towards the people who was going to sacrifice their life towards, like I said, to the community. Yo, I feel like that's something powerful. Like I said, it be people that be like, man, I want to. It was a barber that told me, man. He was like, listen, I never seen myself cutting hair all my life. But he said, when I realized when I was getting my haircut as a child, the conversations they were able to have at the barbershop, it led down the line of generations from those small conversations to some of those men being bigger than ever just for fucking going to the barbershop. So just from that impact, he dedicated his life to connect. I would have been like, yo, but that was his life. But I understood what he said. It was the conversations that you can have with multiple different individuals, no matter the industry, background. They all come there to get their haircut, and you can all exchange information and network.
Yes, sir. Keyword community. Um, Within communities that are successful by ethnicity, um, everyone benefits off the next person's lifestyle, what they do career-wise. The family is structured that way. The community is built that way. So what happens is we never have to leave this community because everything we need is within the community.
Right
And
here.
the whole individual thinking, right, of Black people really screws us in the end because we look at ourselves as individuals and we don't belong to anything. Like your loyalty is not based to your race, your ethnicity, your community, anything. It's based on you and how you move as an individual. So we have to gain more of a collective thinking mentality. And even if it doesn't come widespread amongst all of us, because that's a farce, it could be within the community that you create. Let's say if me and Juice had these type of conversations, all right, bet. You go get your fam, I get my fam. We do certain things within that fam. We get somebody else, we add to the circle, to the wolf pack. Boom, they do the same thing. Like you can build a community in different aspects. It doesn't have to be like all Black people agree on everything, because that's never gonna happen. Like no one agrees on every single aspect and build and move forward from that point on. So that's one thing right there. Um, I guess this ties into the family aspect. I've watched a lot of YouTube videos, I'll keep it short, of Sister Shahrazad Ali. And it was so interesting that she went, like marketing back in the gap, you had to go to TV shows. You couldn't just sell your shit online. And she went to these TV shows. I'm talking about like Montel Jordan, everybody's TV show that was popping. And she got the most hate and negative criticism from Black people than anybody else. Black men, Black women, people of status, people just in the crowd. And I'm just like, yo, this shit is crazy. So I always think like, what if Black people would have attached their thinking patterns to people like that? So whenever we bring up leadership, oh, we need leaders to lead us out of our dark spaces. Yeah, we had those by the boatload. You just didn't fuck with them because you let propaganda and the media associate your identity with who you should associate with. You didn't do it based on your own success and what problems and woes afflicted your household. You let other people make that decision for you. So we had Malcolm X's, we had Elijah Muhammad's, we had the Black Panthers, we had Kwame Ture, we had every person you could think of, right? But what tends to happen is we get separated by religious viewpoints. Even back in those days, you had the Black Christians, and then you had the Black Muslims, and then you had the Black Power movement that tied more so into the Black Muslim movement. So instead of those people combining and coming together, they let Jesus and Allah separate them when there is no separation between them. You know what I mean? But that's another conversation. But that's where we allow that. Right?
That's another conversation.
Right. That's another conversation. So we had different types of things like that happen. So I just had to bring up the aspect that we have leaders. We've had leaders. We just don't study them. We don't associate with them because we think every leader should be made into a particular image that we agree with every single thing. Right. So when you go to counseling, when you go to therapy, you sit on a couch. The therapist doesn't tell you what you want to hear. Their job is to find out what's wrong with you and then examine you within that particular capacity. And then let's amplify the conversation based on what's wrong with you, not what's right with you. So we have to apply that same analogy to how we choose our leaders. If our leaders agree with us 100%, I don't think that's the leader you should follow. You need different sprinkles of different things to make you better in totality, right? So what I see with a lot of religious people now, they're talking about spiritual warfare, right? You worrying about God's battle with the devil, right? When you're not worrying about your internal battle within yourself. You're worrying about the wrong fight. You need to fix yourself. Worry about your own diet, your own spirit, your own mentality. Fix that as a Black person and stop worrying about biblical literature as it pertains to any religion. Like these things are to make you better. It's not to get you caught up into a fight that doesn't exist within yourself. So the only spiritual warfare, the only battles that you have is within yourself. And I think Black people will advance if we think about life like that more so. We have to worry about fixing us as individuals, fixing our families, fixing our communities, and get out of this whole biblical literature type of thinking to where we get wrapped up into that type of shit. Like in the intro, we brought up what's going on with the US dollar. Worrying about what's going on with the Bible and getting caught up in spiritual warfare is not going to save you and your family from what's happening with this dollar. Like, worrying about the wrong fight. You got to put food on the table in real time and make sure that we live to take care of our families, our children. So that's my input on that. We have to know what war we're actually fighting and not let religion or anything pick the wars that we should think that we're fighting. So you got it.
Oh man, J. Cole lyric came to my head. We had a line that said, "Why do we cling to the villains?" And truth be told, I remember when I first heard that lyric, I was like, "Yo, why do we?" You know what I'm saying? As they said that when we talk about media, you know, being villains are sometimes one of the things that's glorified. Yeah, I remember like when we was kids, being a superhero was some badass shit back then. But as we got older, it was like fuck with the villains. You know what I'm saying? Because doing good didn't mean, doing good wasn't always giving you the results that you wanted. But however, doing the opposite was gaining people some power, some people respect, some people finances. You know what I'm saying? So as you start wrapping around different cultures, for instance, hip hop, people forget how hip hop was getting started. Hip hop was getting started with some of them drug dealers. You know what I'm saying? Pushing money, putting money to the labels, helping the artists get on their feet. I was, you know, it's a lot of different things. I didn't even know they started getting involved, even with sports players. You had some of these. That's what I'm saying. Even the villains still was trying to look out for individuals in their communities, even if the money wasn't clean as they were making it. But at the same time, you're making money, you're still killing off your community. But doing one good deed or two good deeds, it's like, well, shit. Look what he did, though. Yeah, but look at this arrow that he fucked up at the same time. But you know what I'm saying? It's like when some of the moments play in my head when I heard that lyrics, and I couldn't just help myself. It was like, damn, that's really some deep stuff. We like clinging to the villains. We don't know why. You know what I'm saying? Hey, you know that's why. Who was that? 48 Laws of Power. You got the rogue, the different type of style, the rugged and stuff like that. And these are just some of the personality types that just happen to define an individual that makes them look more empowering, more charismatic, and stuff like that. And I remember, I don't know what random day I had hit Excel. I was like, yeah, man, I don't know what has been going on, man. I've been looking up all these different drug dealers in the 90s and 80s. He was like, yeah, bro, you didn't know about that? I was like, hell no, I didn't know them niggas get money like that. So, you know, my dumb ass was so warped in it at one time. Like, damn. Shit, I think we was in the wrong city, man. We need to go over there.
Big man.
I'm no, we in the wrong city, man. We gotta go.
The new story.
The new story, dude. I mean, but like I said, it's like the glamour. It was always the glamour that's projected. Remember we said media, the glamour. They buying cars, they doing this, buying blocks, making millions of dollars a day, $20 a week. Nigga, I'm not thinking about no 9 to 5, bro. I'm trying to get this stuff right now. So that's what I said. Like as time goes on, I was like, yeah, we really don't cling to people who are actually more positive. You didn't have Nelson Mandela, you didn't have Barack Obama. You know what I'm saying? It's the smallest things that still were big worldwide. People just be like, oh, you know, that's cool. But the nigga down the street, he got it all though. You know, I could actually go meet him. And that's another thing that's worked around us. A lot of people feel like once people get too high and mighty or reach a certain caliber, that they won't even talk to us, look at us, or do something of that nature. But at the same time, that shouldn't keep you from wanting to get there, right? I have individuals who have told me, like, listen, until you make an X amount of money, we don't need to talk. One man told me, said, listen, if you got less than 10 millionaires in your phone, we don't need to talk. Like, I done had some really cold shit thrown in my face, but it made me want to strive to become associates or be better or be on that level to understand where they're coming from. Like I said, some of the people are like, listen, if I give you the information for free, you're not going to fucking use it because it's free. Just like the family member that you know is successful, but you won't call them for help or assistance because they know you're not going to do nothing with the time that they give you. It's like I said, it's just some stuff that be happening as I look around community wise and global wise. Like damn, like some of this stuff really is true.
Okay, cool. I guess I'll throw in one more thing with the whole like things we attach loyalty to. And it kind of goes back to the whole religious world. Like, I think about far like black people take these type of thinking patterns to an extreme to where we'll disassociate ourselves with family members, friends, anybody if they don't praise the same God, if they don't rock with the same thoughts 100% of the time. And that goes back to divide and conquer. Like you have so many black people that's divided amongst political status, Democrats, Republican, Christian, Muslim, whatever. And I feel as though like we're gonna have to come to a particular space and time to where we eliminate all that and see yourself as black first. And you may have to indulge into even things you don't believe in just to advance yourself. So what I mean by that is I've been having this conversation lately. We've had it on the podcast. I'm like, yo, my next kids, I'm sending them to the mosque. Not so they can become Muslim, but just so they can get the exposure. You see black men go to a particular space where they provide, protect. They're the military. The men are separate from the women because women teach women how to be women, men teach men how to be men. So it's no distractions. Everybody's focused on the speaker. You got like I said, the military, black men, stomach in, chest out, head up. Like, you're a God. Like, these are the type of things that we have to feed into our brain, even if we don't associate with the practices 100%. So instead of looking at how you differ from your brother or sister, quote unquote, look at what you have in common. And that can advance us further. So it shouldn't be no more family members not dealing with nobody because of who they voted for or what church they go to. So much division, right? And they will lie to us and tell us that we're the minority when really we're not. And we get to thinking that we're the minority, right? It's funny how the minority, right, the 11 to 13% of American population holds the biggest dollar, and they don't even make the most amount of money. That's pretty ironic how all these things tie into place, that the black dollar is that important, right? And then just look at marketing. We have companies like Tommy Hilfiger is coming back. I don't know if y'all seeing that or not. We're seeing ads for Tommy Hilfiger. We're seeing a lot of things. Company that owns Tommy Hilfiger, PVH. So you have to look at things like that. How does it relate to the stock market? How does it relate to propaganda? How does it relate to the culture? So everything that we buy and consume is based on what's marketed to us. You're not choosing it for yourself. So I was just throw that in, like, this whole divide and conquer shit got to stop. We got to learn to not give our loyalty to other things outside of ourselves, but ourselves. I'll take it somewhere else. The whole family structure for black people is very chaotic. And that goes back to conversations that Kevin Samuel was having, Sister Shahrazad Ali was having back in the 90s. Everybody was having conversations based around why can't the black man and the black woman come together? So I think this fits the conversation. We're going to have to examine ourselves 100% as individuals, black men, black women, see how we come together, see what we disagree with, put it on the table, and build from there. But as long as you have people feeling like they don't need family structure, like, man, I've never really heard a black man say he really, I've never heard him flex on the fact that he don't need a woman. I've never heard that. You know what I'm saying? In reality, he probably don't need a woman in certain capacities, but I've never heard the flex come from it. I've heard the flex come from black women saying that they're strong being independent versus black men saying they're strong. I've never heard a man say I'm a strong, independent black man.
I told you before, anytime a man tries to be strong independent, we're going to look at him weird.
Right. So we have to look at the words that we use and see how it breaks down our family structure. And we got to look at who broke down the family structure. And of course, that's going to cause submission, compromise, respect. You're going to have to see fault within yourself, within that mirror. So yeah, that's definitely why we have people like Kevin Samuels, who came with that whole energy of, everybody got to examine themselves 100%, find out what's wrong. Then we move forward and build a family from there. But if we just keep looking at it the way we're looking at it, like I don't need you, you don't need me, 9 times out of 10, we never gonna come together. So you got it.
Right. One of the main things I always say when it comes to a relationship, words have an effect on the mind. And for instance, I'd be like, yo, when you get in a relationship, do you still consider yourself independent? And when
Mm,
people still consider themselves independent in a relationship, like that relationship ain't gonna work, honestly.
mm,
Right? It's disrespectful off tops because now you become whole, you become a couple, you become two. So if you're two still operating individually, it's only a matter of time before it separates. So that's what independence is. It's a separation. So, and I always say like conscious language, good book over there. It always talks about how words have effect on the mind that will then affect your reality. And when there's certain men and women who operate on a level where you actually, where words mean everything,
mhm.
where it's a precise reason why you're using this word. Whether it's, and I always say like, listen, how is it that the more successful a man gets, the less times you hear a woman being independent? But yet in our community, it's just like you're independent no matter what success level that black man is on. I was like, damn, that's kind of crazy. It's kind of wild. Um, it even got to a point where, yeah, I had that talk with y'all. I remember, like I said, it's my mentor has been trying to keep me on track. They're like, hey, I see where you're going. I don't want you to forget where you come from. So, like I said, 2 books he gave me was The Miseducation of the Negro, and the book Why Should All the White Men Have All the Fun? And he eventually was informed me like, listen, the more successful or economic ladder that you're trying to reach, some people start getting detached and becoming who the other people are in that social economic class and forget where they are who they are at the same time. And I asked him a question. I said, listen, I noticed the black billionaires in America, all but one couple, they're all married to white women. I said, are you saying that's a system thing? And to him, he was like, yeah, absolutely it is. He said, sometimes black men do believe that taking the white man's prized possession, the white woman, is his validation that he belongs here. Whether he's walking into a country club, a business fundraising or organization, he believes he's there because he's dating a white woman. But at the same time, if that woman has no position of power, it doesn't matter. It's laughable. Right? He said this is why when black men date the Kardashians, for instance, there's a level of access they get versus just some regular person that they just married. But like I said, his mindset was very understanding. Like I said, say with a black image, he was just more so like, listen, let me put some stuff in front of you. He said, I don't mind who you date, who you're not marrying, but I feel like I owe it to you to make sure I put enough information to where you make your own decisions. So that was just interesting in knowing that you also have some of the oldest men that's still trying to direct young men like myself who's in our 30s. But you know what I'm saying? They're only looking for the ones that really are out here trying to make something happen. I also tell brothers all the time, one of the biggest things being black is like sometimes we come off aggressive as shit. Sometimes we don't even know where it comes from. When you got daddy issues, mommy issues, like sometimes we just aggressive as men. Like I remember he was talking about a tribe. He was a tribe in Africa. He said, listen, how they had to recreate that tribe was learning to breed two different tribes together, and that would eventually mutate their DNA, but make that one tribe that's aggressive less aggressive with another tribe. He said, you don't have to technically breed it out. You have to be able to understand yourself as a man as to why you act a certain nature. They believe in breeding it out DNA wise would help it instead of you know what I'm saying, reconstructing and learning about themselves as why they're like this. So there's things you have to learn about yourself as to why you are a certain way and be able to carry that energy in a different direction to be more productive and effective.
Yeah, yeah. One thing you brought up that I like was really it ties into financial literacy, and I feel like being parents, being even if you don't have kids, like you still could have that parental energy to somebody that's younger in your family. As Black people, we have to step into financial literacy to where having an IQ has to be the set standard of being an adult on shit that actually matters, not just what you did in high school and passing a bunch of tests and all that shit. But what happens in real life? You should understand what companies own what other companies, who merges together, how does that affect livelihood? You should understand just what type of accounts should you have, what type of things should you put in play to make sure that life is easier for the next generations that come behind you. It all ties back to literacy and IQ. But if we just have children and we send our children to school and we feel like they're learning because they're going to school, that's a problem, because we have a school system, right? And the school system necessarily is not responsible for preparing your child to be anything. That's your responsibility as a parent. So school shouldn't just be in the school if you can't homeschool. You still should have some type of homeschooling that takes place at home. So by the time your kid leaves your house, they should understand credit. They should understand real estate. They should understand some type of entrepreneurship. Whether they indulge or not, they should be thinking on these certain type of capacities. So when they go into the real world, they're prepared, right? Because they can go into the real world, accumulate debt, make quote unquote what we consider as money, but where's that dollar gonna go if they don't understand money in totality? So that goes back to the parent. So we have to change the IQ standard of what it takes to make children. Like, we can't just have a bunch of children and we're not teaching them things of value. Just teaching them things that go on within the communities, how to survive in the hood, sending them to church for spiritual development, for them to learn the religion. You've been in this religion your whole life and you've never read the book from cover to cover. That's a problem. What are we teaching if you haven't taken out the time to study this for yourself? So I feel as though that's powerful. We have to raise the IQ standard on what it takes to be a Black adult. It's no more fun and games, how many clubs you went to, how many people from the opposite sex you ran through, what type of clothes you got in your closet, what type of designer you got on your body, what kind of car you driving. These are the symbols, the status symbols that we associate ourselves with. None of it's mental, it's all physical. And then we wonder why we behind everybody. So these are the type of conversations that we got to have within our communities. What the fuck do you know? Do you even have a library at your house? Like, do you have a bookshelf with books on that motherfucker? And I ain't talking about the sex books either. You know what I'm saying? The whole fiction, non-fiction shit. We need to upgrade our mentalities. So at the end, like, you know what I'm saying, if we're behind everybody else within this whole race thing, we can only blame ourselves because we don't set standards on what's smart or not. We let other people decide it for us. So I have to throw that in there, man. I ain't got no question. I'll let you take it from there.
Oh man, there's a comment right here. I definitely do want to bring that up. Somebody said not enough people are living in reality. I 100% agree. So I want to ask people, when do you start telling people the truth behind the way they live, right? One of my favorite quotes that is now, a kid dreams but adult plans. When are y'all going to start talking about planning, the importance of planning? Everybody's still dreaming. Well, hey, listen, I'll get there. You know, it's a thought of mine. You know, it'll happen. I'll be like, what the fuck is your plan? My plan is so simple this year that I tell people, like, listen, I'm only focused on 3 things. Nothing else matters to me this year. That's it. And the more a person dreams, I say, listen, there's nothing wrong with dreaming. But if your head is always in an imaginary standpoint and not necessarily put into a physical aspect, you're going to have a problem. You're not going to ever get a dream. Like I said, it made a lot of sense because when I started studying other individuals, Jim Carrey said before he made $1 million, he wrote himself $1 million check. He used to walk around with it in his pocket. Then when he became an actor, he literally had the $1 million check that he already wrote with. You have, like I said, people literally just playing out their life. Well, what was that? Was that Dale Carnegie? Look at Dale Carnegie. He said, I'm going to spend the first half of my life accumulating money. The second half, I'm going to spend giving away all my money. And I'm like, bro, like, these people literally have planned out their life. And that's how I always say, like, okay, this is why these people got far. A lot of people just hoping and wishing. I'm like, yo, what's that plan of action? That's why got to bring up Kevin Samuels here. He's always saying, look, what is your plan? How do you plan on doing this? What are you going to do? If you want to get to here, how are you going to do it? That's why I always said I call him the gatekeeper. He was telling you, listen, unless you do this, you're not gonna have access to this. The doors are not gonna open. Yeah,
Mhm.
how many times, like you said, when you talk with a black man, he said, listen, I'm not helping no black man out who ain't working 60 hours a week. They're like, well,
Mhm.
full time is 40. I said work 60 hours. And I'm like, damn, okay. Like you have to respect that because they always say, listen, the people who work the most hours usually have the most edge. Um,
Mhm.
I'm gonna have X do it for you, man. Break down the Kobe Bryant story when he said like the hours he put in, how far he'll be ahead of people. Like X can tell that story way better than me.
Oh yeah, to make it short, he looked at it on a scale to where if he woke up at 4 in the morning, which a lot of people tap into the whole 4 in the morning theology, whether it's like the creative hour, some people call it the witch hour. You have even books like the 5 a.m. club, like, but it's something powerful about that 4 a.m. to 5 a.m. grind. A lot of billionaires wake up around the time period. So he's like, well, if I wake up at 4 in the morning, I start training. He did the math. I get this many hours of access of practice over the person on the average that wakes up probably around 8, 9, or something like that in practice. So he put this hour gap in perspective of mathematics, and he's like, look, let's scale it by a year. Let's scale it by 2 years. So they have to work twice, 3 times, 4 times as hard just to catch up with what I'm doing on a regular basis. I'm already years ahead of them in practice in real time just based on waking up a couple of hours earlier. So that's the whole theology of like waking up 4 or 5 in the morning, getting your day started over the average person and still asleep. And to make it more simpler, they already say what the early bird gets the worm.
Mm-hmm.
Like these are the type of things that take place. Like while you sleeping, while you planning, somebody else is already in motion.
Mm-hmm.
So planning is important, but how much time do you spend on planning versus executing the plan? So we always say if you fail a plan, you plan to fail. So these got to be the conversations we have in a family household. I think every family household should have family meetings. I know a lot of people think it's corny, black people think it's corny, but this is how you should orchestrate your household. Let's have family meetings.
Yeah, I'm like,
If you're in a relationship with somebody, it shouldn't just be based about, oh, you make me happy, I make you happy, it feels good, sex is great, let's date. Do we have relationship meetings to where we sit down at a table, you put shit on paper, I put shit on paper, and we exchange and see how we come together or not? Do we do that?
man, I got a whole board right here, bro. You would have I got a
Right.
whole board right
Mm-hmm.
here. I said, listen, I'm gonna write out the things I'm looking for. I want you to write out the things you're looking for. And in the middle, I want you to write down the things we agree upon. So it's stuff. And I said, listen, every day you come over, I want you to
Mm-hmm.
like add more to it if you feel like
Mm-hmm.
you want to add more into that relationship. But I also want you to add to the middle if you see more things that we got to agree upon. A lot of people just don't understand, like putting things in front of people's faces keeps them mentally there. That's why one of the biggest things was vision boards and putting things all different around your house is like I said, there's certain things I put up that I walk by multiple times a day. I read it just to put it in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever catch me in a deep thought, there's quotes going through my brain. Majority of the time, you ever see me in this pocket, it's quotes all the time. I live my life in quotes. That's why one of the biggest ones, as you was talking about, I said, listen, success is simple. It's either you're going to stay up later or you're going to wake up earlier. Bottom line. Bottom line. It's no way around it.
That's simple.
It's that simple.
Right.
That's why we talk about the hours of mastery. Robert E. Greene, 10,000 hours or more. These people
Yes,
are
sir.
ahead of you because they put in more work than you. And that's why it's kind of weird that some people believe like other people are blessed and lucky. Like the way I've been working my ass off this year and all these opportunities that would happen, like it's damn near spit in the face. Now I understand why people feel disrespected when people call people lucky. None of this shit is luck. I can tell you the stuff I'm doing now to go around from getting in contact when I know a person has this contact directly. I realize, like, listen, I can't rely on this person. I'm about to go around this person and get what I need to get done. And that's how you got to have that mentality. Cut corners. Fuck it. Sometimes the source is not really your source. You better understand that. People are going to keep you where they want to keep you if it's for their benefits.
Yeah, now you're talking the talk right there. Like, yeah. So at the end of the day, um, we have to stop trying to reinvent the wheel and just look at what's already set in play. You already have like masters of like uh financial literacy, theology, all these different types of things that's in front of you. A lot of times we just got to follow that system and stop trying to create something completely brand new. Um, Even when it comes down to black people that get quote unquote smart, some people don't read quote unquote white authors' books or white philosophy, and all that. Like they get too caught up in color at that particular capacity, right? So I would just simply say, like, do what works for you. You have to study the wealthy in order to become wealthy. So even when we talk about things like the family aspect or whatever, like the biggest play within that is like the goal is, getting to 100K as fast as possible. 2 incomes get you there faster, right? Not on the individual scale. And it's like a lot of people will be like, well, as an individual, I could tap into that. Cool, bet. So Kevin Samuels, like when you retire, do you got your 2 million for retirement?
It's
Like you
now
always have
3.
two.
It is going up. It's going up, y'all. Especially with this
Right,
dollar about to crash, it's gonna
right,
go up.
right. And listen to what you just said. The dollar about to crash. So even now, 100K in certain cities is only worth 30, 40,000. So that rewrites the whole narrative on what it takes to just to survive. Not even to splurge, live comfortably, take all these trips y'all like to take and flaunt and drive nice things and live good, eat good. Like this is just survival at this point. 100K is becoming 40,000 on the average scale within this economy. So this is just talks that we should have, right, on the money standard, how we live in our lives, how we spend money, how we make money, how we come together as a family and a community. I close off on that. You got something else you want to tap into on the image? Maybe it's something we missed. I don't know.
Okay, another thing I want to talk about when it comes to saving this image is we're gonna have to talk about generation respect. What bottom line? We gotta have generation respect. For some reason, this generation ain't shit. You didn't do things back how they did. And listen, we're gonna be different. Bottom line. What Jay-Z said, look, Tupac had a nose ring too. Y'all be tripping for no reason. So it's stuff like that that I see that people will forever talk about. You know what I'm saying? We gotta get back to the generation of respect, the maturity, to have our agreements and our disagreements and be able to move forward from there. One thing about the old generation could always teach us like basically what it took to get there. The new generation can teach the old generation how to get there faster because now it's technology involved, right? We just seen on our last podcast, the brother came up here, his grandmother was watching him on Instagram. Never asked the age, but I'm thinking if I'm in he said he was raised within a generation of the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. He said it was like getting raised in all generations. So if you have an older individual who was willing to tap in to live, to support him, just to watch him talk, that says she's willing to learn what's going on in the world. You know what I'm saying? Rest of people that be like, oh, I'm not trying to learn that or get involved with that. It's so much that can take place that we just got to be able to come to mutual agreements or some type of guideline to a point where nobody feels disrespected. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the biggest things. Kevin Seven said there's always a competitive gap for even the dating record. Like one thing he said that very much true, don't care what nobody said. He said like when you have daughters that are dating older men and the older women are telling them don't do that because he's too old. Well, that's competition at the same time because he said you're removing her chances and availability of getting into a relationship because of the age gap and the man might want something young or the fact that she didn't obtain something early on or that she can obtain something within her age bracket. So I just want y'all to understand like we got to have some type of situation where different generations can get together and we can all just have it out.
Right. My quick response to that would be, personally, I think we all had that grandmother that we called Madeir or whatever. I don't know what names y'all all tap into. But it's like after that person died, the family structure from that point on has never been the same. You lose that great grandmother and shit go to shit. And no one respects anybody after that. Right? So it's like we revered the person and we didn't respect and revere what they stood for, the principles. So we have to spread principles and morals and let that be the set standard and not have it be embodied by a particular person. And it goes back to leadership. Like you shouldn't be able to kill the revolutionary and the revolution dies. the revolution should always outlive the revolutionary, because everyone should be a revolutionary, right? We all seen Judas and the Black Messiah, but a lot of y'all have still not looked up Fred Hampton and studied anything about him. You just got entertained by the movie. That's sad. But yeah, so we have to rewrite that narrative. So when the leader of the family died, the family shouldn't die, because what they stand on, we still should embody. So let's learn from the older generations and stop picking apart from what we disagree. Oh, they're too strict. They're too this. They come from a different era. So
Yeah.
of course they're gonna look at us differently, and we're gonna look at them differently. But they don't have to be that diplomatic as well. We're too diplomatic. Even when we look at a show like Power, I've been debating people left and right. I've been catching smoke. People been like, yo, Kane is not out of control. I'm like, he's out of control. People are like, well, his dad didn't respect him. It's his fucking dad. He don't have to. He don't gotta listen to him. This is his business, his organization. You fall in line to him. Kane don't listen to his parents, but his parents gotta listen to him. And people are like, oh well, you know, he's not doing nothing wrong. I'm like, everything he does is rational and emotional and out of control. A little shit may be smart, but this is the problem. Like, we don't understand hierarchy within our structure. Household.
Hierarchy.
Right, right. So this is just things we got to pay attention to. Nipsey, even when he talked to Steph Curry, he said some key shit. He was like, every time he dropped his daughter off to school, they did their whole script. He was like, boom, what is integrity? She had to answer, boom. Are you a leader or a follower? Boom. Okay, boom. He was like, these are the principles that I was raised on, so I make sure I implement those same principles within my daughter. Now let's look at what happened. He died, right? But that was their script every morning. So he embedded that script within her brain. So even though he dies, his knowledge and information still lives within her. This is what we got to do as parents or influencers or whatever. Let's embed the knowledge, principles, and morals to where even if we go, the system still plays on. But what happens in our culture is you got 60-year-old leaders, 70-year-old leaders. That should never happen. All the leaders should be within the youth, not old in age. The older you get in age, fall back a little bit, let somebody that's young, that's going to outlive you, step up, get that top spot, but you just feed them the knowledge and information. This is how you don't kill the entire revolution, even when the revolutionary goes away. I could be a revolutionary as well. So I would say that's the diplomatic things we have to implement, right? So we shouldn't still be talking about, oh, we lost Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. That was in the 60s, fam. We still shouldn't be doing this, right? You know, that's a lot of people's beef with Obama. I ain't gonna disrespect y'all guy like that, but he's like, yo, this is the closest thing we could have got to that, and we ain't getting nothing from that. But that's another story, another conversation, man. So you got it,
Man, so last thing I would like to talk about, well, two things I like to talk about is I want your opinion on this. Do you believe Black people should still participate in slave movies? Should we start actually playing out in movies that empower us?
you know. You know what I'm gonna say? Fuck them slave movies, man. I
I'm just saying.
don't think that we should do that, because this has been a narrative within our culture forever, right? So what we have to do is flip the narrative. Let's produce movies of Black royalty that pertains to history, so that we know our history extends past slavery. That's not where our history started. So for every movie that 300 make, we need to make a movie about Hannibal Walker. For like, this is how it got to happen. Like, for every, even just how we look at, like, you know, like praise and worship. Just imagine a lot of Black people will get conscious and they learn a lot of shit and be like, yo, Jesus, Black, I know it. I stand on it. Hebrew Israelites, all these different types of people. What if they stop going to churches where the image of God was white? It would change the whole narrative. It would change the way the dollar is spent. It would change the whole infrastructure. So, yeah, the slave movies is kind of played out. But I do understand when some people say sometimes in the slave movies they sprinkle a little bit of how Black people overcame it. And that's great. But I would say our history extends that. So we have to go back. We haven't been out of slavery for approximately, like, not even close to 1,000 years within America. Probably not even, 500 years, so to speak. And the movies that we make historically have to extend past 6,000 to 7,000 years just to see Black like we don't have any movies about the Black Moors who
Mason, whatever, I forgot it.
we should have them. We should have had plenty of movies about Mansa Musa by now.
There you go.
Right. We say even ancient Egypt was black. Kim, we don't have no movies about that. When we see movies about ancient Egypt, the royalties are white, the slaves are brown skin or black. Like we don't have the right type of movies that we should have based on history. So you got it.
Last thing I'll say, I think this would be a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
Make this go viral.
Mm-hmm.
I believe we should act out things that would have happened in a positive manner. Right? This is what I mean. Bloods and Crips.
Mm-hmm.
If that situation never happened where everybody's going against each other, show what it would have been like if everybody was aligned on a serious note. You got situations where some of our greatest leaders died. Okay, cool, they died. Show what happened when the people who were still a part of it still carried it on. It never, the movement never died. I feel like if we played out situations that died out or caused havoc that showed the most positive manner, I believe it will rebirth a new spark in this fucking world.
Right. I'll go here. Even if you look at like the radical side of what they like to implement on Islam, like kill one quote unquote terrorist, another one see the bomb drop, so he automatically grows up with that hate and he steps into that position. It's like even when they say like Crips don't die, we multiply. Like just imagine if black people had that type of mentality. You kill Malcolm, I'm gonna take his place. You gotta kill me too. Right. So for every one Malcolm that died, three is born. Like this is showing that you belong to a cause. The cause exceeds yourself. So, but what tends to happen is you have that energy of being a warrior, being a rider or whatever, but we're told where to put it. I'm told to give you that energy as a blood or a Crip. I'm gonna die for that. I'm told to give you that energy as being from somebody from Third Ward, Houston, Texas, California, New York. I'm told that I should die for that. I'm not picking and choosing based on what I believe myself. I'm not giving it to my race. I'm giving it to what people told me I should give it to. Right? You know what I'm saying? So we just have to watch who controls what we live and die for. Who's pulling the strings? Who created all of this chaotic nonsense and value systems on what my life is worth dying for or not? You know what I'm saying? So we have to be very mindful of that. Even when we talk about the relationship structure, we was like, yo, a lot of black women got more relationships with Jesus than black men. That's a problem. Somebody told them that their whole existence is for him, but the man in front of you is not for him. Like we have to look at who's pulling the strings, who's telling us what we should live and die for and put on 100% for it. So we just gotta be controlled of the narratives. If these groups could have came together and stayed together, it could be powerful. But we look at even people like Nipsey, YG, you got Game. You have a lot of different people that's pushing the narrative of unity over separation. So we should put money into their music. We should go see their shows, like support the people that's supporting the narrative of unity. You know what I mean? So we have to be mindful of that. But, you know, nothing sells like separation. Everybody bought the whole Tupac versus Biggie thing. Everybody bought that, East versus West. That was the biggest marketing strategy within hip hop. Even if it wasn't that drawn to the streets, it became that way. So we have to put that much energy into when people come together. You got artists from the East connect with people from the West, people from the South connect with people from the West and the East. Everything just has to be based on the unity scale. But shoulda, woulda, coulda. I'm just like, okay, what do we do now? Pretty much.
But yeah, man. Man said something that was interesting. He said some of the greatest warriors that black people had are in prisons. They were just misguided warriors.
Political
They were proper cause, proper guidance, proper leadership. He
Mhm.
said, "Now, if those warriors was guided in the right manner, there probably nothing that would separate us." And I was like, "Damn," because at the same time, the same people who was running the streets, they usually run their yard. In fact, we can get on that subject right now. I'm not gonna go past it after this, but what can we do as a culture to help prevent black individuals from returning into incarceration? Um, we got to remember, people got to remember, prison was literally made to be a rehabilitation center. Right? So you
Mhm.
get there, you get your mind right, you go back into the world, da da da. Right? Prison's teaching people how to be better criminals. So I was like, okay, so the way it was constructed at first is no longer the same thing. There are people
Mhm.
who's go to jail just to get more information on how to do things when they get back out into the real world. And it's like the same things that were told that were against you, that would have worked in your favor, is no longer holding that position. Like, hey man, you got a felony. It's like, who gives a shit? You know what I'm saying? It's like a lot of things in the world doesn't have that same effect as it once did. So it kind of makes me wonder, like, uh, what would be the proper steps for that? Because I feel like if you catch one sentence, most likely you'll do it again. I forgot a percentage of that,
Right.
but no over that 100%. But yeah, I just kind of want your opinion real quick.
Um, Pretty much going back to like narratives, you have Malcolm X, you have people even like in modern times, Wall Street Trapper, somebody that went to prison for over 10 years, got exposed to information on stocks in prison, trained themselves up to a particular capacity, came out, mastered that, and now he's like, yo, how can I go back to the prisons to teach people? He got the whole Wall Street looks like us movement.
Mhm.
This is where it happens and takes place. Like eventually you have to see a problem within self. You have to see yourself being caught up within a particular system. But if you think that system is your life and you belong to that system, then you lost. You can't never change that or rewrite that. So you have to outgrow that thinking mentality. You have to understand that, yo, you caught up in the system. They call it the three strike system, school to prison pipeline. These are systems that set in place to say this is where you're going to end up, prison or dead, right? But a lot of us accept that narrative with honor, and we think, yo, death before dishonor. This is how I'm going to go. This is the most honorable way I can live my life. If I go to jail and I get free and I come out from prison, I got stripes now. I'm somebody. We associate status symbol with the most negative shit we can pick. So
Being a villain.
the change takes place when we learn the game. The game is, yo, make money. I ain't gonna never tell nobody you do whatever you do. That's you. But the name of the game, because even if you look at white people, quote unquote, right? They came over here, stole land from other people, killed them, wiped them the fuck out. There was nothing honorable about that. That wasn't even like legal, quote unquote, to what we would do now. They stole the land from people. And then when they gave reparations to the people that they stole the land from, they found a way to navigate that system to where they can benefit from that. That's where you get the whole $5 Indian concept from and all that shit. They received the benefits that they was giving to the people that they fucked over. So I would never tell you walk a particular path 100% of the time, but what I will tell you is the benefits financially that you make from those decisions, what do you do with them? That's where it goes back to financial literacy. What what do we do with this money when we get, like, imagine if all the dope dealers from the 80s understood real estate and investing in stock markets. Even if I got to go to prison for 20 years, what happens with some of the money that I made within that before that incarceration period? Did I set anything into play for people to eat off what I did in the streets?
Mhm.
That's our biggest downfall. It's not that we get into the streets, die and go to jail. When we die and go to jail, the money goes back to the system that put us in jail or put us in the grave.
Sure.
We just got to find a way to get it from that system and put it into our families' pockets. And that's the same thing Wall Street Trapper was saying with stocks. Yo, if you go to jail for 10 years, cool. All right. That's you gonna sit down. But for 10 years, is your money in the stock market. That way when you come out of prison for 10 years, your money's been flipped and doubled and all that because you put it somewhere to where it can grow in assets. So that's just the thinking mentality. Even Donald Trump had a family member that was real heavy in the streets. If you study his background story, his grandfather, that's where they got the family wealth
Wow.
from. Right. Even if you look at the whole like white Italian thing, you study that whole narrative. It's not about getting it out the mud being right or wrong. It's just what do you do once you get it out the mud? We put the money back into the fucking dirt, and that's the problem. So I would just simply say that that's how you rewrite the narrative, man. You can have a moral system to where you don't end up in a criminal system. Even you brought up earlier with even the hip hop structure, the dope dealers in the early, like what, the 80s and the 90s, instead of them, you know, they fucked off a lot of money, but they put that money into the artists, and those artists became moguls in hip hop. We look at Jay-Z. Jay-Z started off doing what he did in the streets, transitioning to hip hop. We have to find something to transition into. We look at TV shows like Power. We look at Ghost. Ghost did what he did in the streets, but he had the club. He tried to transition into politics. We have to learn how to transition. That's the problem. So
That's it. That's what I'm saying, bro.
all right. Talking that talk official podcast. Make sure you tap into the YouTube channel. We just did 2 previous interviews with Coach Peaches, Dope Boy Mac. Make sure you tap into those episodes. Follow the IG page. We have more content available. And we'll be back this week for more content. We appreciate y'all.
All right, y'all. Peace. Oh, man. I ain't gonna lie. Gotta stop.
Hmm.
Do you feel like clothes should be somewhat important?
Close?
Yes. Image.
Yeah. Most definitely. You should separate what you wear around the house versus what you wear outside the house. You should have clothes for different type of events at scale, right? And you should feel like when you dress and you step outside, you represent something greater versus just yourself. You belong to something. You belong to a family. You know what I'm saying? Some people even take it to where, yo, if my kids go to school, they're going to be fresh. They're going to be clean. They're going to be dripped out. Like, image is key. So clothes do matter. But some people feel as though the amount of money you spend on the clothes matter. It just really varies. But I would just simply say, like, even in the religious world, we say cleanliness is next to godliness. So that means we should take care of ourselves. Not just how you look, but your hygiene. Everything should be a part. When we seen people like Kevin Samuels, he had the fragrances, he had the hygiene. I take three showers a day. I do this. I'm always dressed nice, suit or not. How we present ourselves has to matter at all times. So when you have people like Meek that attack the women for wearing bonnets, I've even said it on podcasts before. Yo, I mean, anybody that know me from back in the day, high school days, I kept a muscle shirt on. Like that's my thing. Getting older, we should look at how we dress versus being younger and older, see what type of transitions we made, how we present ourselves. Now, we shouldn't see 40-year-old men dressing like they within the 20-year-old culture.
I don't want to see no fucking Jordan on your feet, nigga.
Yeah, we shouldn't see that. Eventually, you have to grow and you have to be conscious of what you put on your body and let that be a representation of where you are mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially. A lot of people pay attention to that. But the whole concept of, you look at the billionaires, the millionaires, they dress in the most plain shit. Shit is not really based on designer. And if they rocking the designer, 9 times out of 10, they probably invested into that company. Like, this is how you got to think. It goes back to financial literacy. Even your assets and liabilities, even your liabilities can become assets depending on how you're moving. But yeah, clothes matter. Even on the marriage level, you know what I'm saying? We talked about the whole Sierra thing. You can't be out there showing that ass and you're married. That's not the play. You got to eventually, your image has to relate back to your family and what you stand for.
I definitely wanted just to make sure I throw that in there. Because you mentioned it briefly, like basically clothes being of status, but I was like, possibly your clothes should, everything should mature with your age. You know what I'm saying? That's just how I look at things. I tell people all the time, the first time I meet an individual go out on a date, I'm always in boots and loafers. First time interactions. Next time, I might be in a sneaker. But like I said, first time, every time, boots and loafers. That's my first presentation. that's the opening of who you are. Like I said, there was a friend I didn't meet. I haven't met in like 15 years. So I seen some high school. Seen him about 2, 3 weeks ago.
Mhm.
It was a cold day, and I was like, "It's cold. Let me just throw on a hoodie, call it a fucking day." I said, "You
Mhm.
know what? Nah, I don't know how he's gonna dress. Let me just dress up. Put on some nice slacks, turtleneck, belt, Chelsea boots." I came in there. He got on Oxfords, jacket, polo shirt. I was like, "Okay, I did the right thing." Sometimes you want to be comfortable, but fuck being comfortable, man. Sometimes you gotta let people know you matured as well.
Facts. Alrighty.
All right,
Yeah.
y'all.
For tonight. Yeah. We out. Thank you for tapping in, talking and talk official podcast.
Peace.